why the housing market is going to crash, what you should do to save yourself. Should you buy a house right now? We answer all of these questions just for you. Let's first look at some of the facts, charts, and graphs to see where we stand at the moment. If we take a look at the average price for a home since 2000, we'll see that in just 2 years, from 2020 until 2022, the price of houses surged to 36.5%. Growth like that has not been seen since the 2008 crash, and even then, it wasn't as drastic and noticeable as it is now. Now, while that might be a red flag, we must see that the U.S. existing home inventory, the number of homes on the market at the moment, is significantly lower than it was back in 2008. So you have fewer houses on the market, and those houses are fetching premium prices. At the peak of the 2008 crash, the market was flooded with a supply of 4 million houses. Currently, that number is 2/3 lower at just 1.26 million houses on the market. When it comes to new housing units started, the graph looks a little different. There are 1.45 million housing units started in 2022. In 2008, that number was around 2.5 million at the peak, and then it took a deep dive, rightfully so. In 2020, there were barely any housing units being started. So even though the number of houses started has been increasing since the 2008 plunge, they are still not at their peak. The recovery mode the market's been in might last a while, and it could be a while before we can see the same peaks as before. The price of lumber features another important graph to keep an eye on when the real estate market is in a hotspot. It says the price of lumber has been decreasing. We all saw those videos of people buying up lumber and carrying it on the back of their pickups in 2020 on TikTok. At the start of 2022, the same trend seemed to repeat itself. But now, the price of lumber is slowly decreasing, although it's getting much harder to get loans as house prices have skyrocketed. So we ask the same question again: will the housing market crash? According to analysts, the housing market is likely going to smash that like button just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, the housing market is due to experience a cool down in the coming months. From the two previous graphs, we saw that the housing inventory is declining. The number of new houses being built is not at its peak either. Whoa, we can say that this is likely the reason behind the elevated housing prices that we've seen lately. According to Forbes, conservative estimates say there will be a 5% drop nationally. Some even like to claim that the prices will continue to increase and drop. However, there was an article published by Fortune magazine titled "A 20% Home Price Decline. 7 forecast models are leaning crash." Here's where the other 13 models have the 2023 housing market going. Many people are claiming that there is going to be a 20% to 30% drop in prices in the housing market. Still, we cannot neglect the fact that homeowner equity is the largest it's ever been since the crash of 2008. This makes the homeowners of 2022 stand on much sturdier ground than the homeowners during the 2008 crash, who basically had very small equity in their homes. They were just hoping the prices would keep going up indefinitely, and they would be able to sell to the next fool down the road. Another thing that makes analysts and forecasters positive about the housing market in 2023 is the regulations. Since the 2008 bust, the U.S. government has been particularly prudent and careful not to repeat the same mistakes of the past. When people thought the world was coming to an end, they make the claim that the rules, restrictions, and regulations in the housing market make it stronger and less risky. But what about foreclosures? One of the biggest telltale signs that a housing market is about to happen is the spike in foreclosure activity. For December 2022, foreclosure stats were up 72%. The important thing to note here is that the spike in foreclosures seems steep only when you zoom in. 72% might seem daunting, but in 2022, only 0.23% of the houses on the market had been foreclosed. Now, zoom out a bit and you'll see that during the 2008 crisis, there was an astonishing 2.21% in 2009 and 2.23% in 2010 foreclosure rate. It might not seem that bad, but a spike in foreclosures could be a bad sign. If we look at the past, we'll see that in 2005, the foreclosure rate was 0.46%, and then in the next 4 years, it jumped to unprecedented heights. And this is the scary part. The upward trend in foreclosures could spell doom for the housing market. So far, the government, together with the mortgage industry, managed to smash that subscribe button, just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no, seriously now, they managed to keep the foreclosure rate down. But that was artificial. When the checks stop coming in and the government stops flooding the markets with new money, the problems will surface. Some of the more optimistic forecasts like to point out that the homeowners of today have been enjoying the rise of the equity in their homes. They say that compared to the past, the homeowners have had a large boost in values recently. It amazes us that they fail to realize how this so-called increase in value is caused by all of that government aid that we just talked about. Again, when the government stops giving money away for free, which is what it was practically doing until recently, then those values will drop, just like they dropped in 2008. When the value of people's houses drop, they can't resell them and make a profit on them, like they've been doing during this surge. In short, what goes up with artificial government aid must come down. While these forecasts like to say that the trend will keep going even in 2023, we don't see how that can happen, since the market is likely going to take a deep dive. We know that market corrections, which is just a fancy way of saying crashes, happen every 10 to 13 years. The last market correction was exactly 15 years ago. We don't like to base our forecast on a single factor alone, but even this points out that we're long overdue for a market crash. So what should you do in a market like this? Should you buy a house now, or should you wait and see where the market goes and what it does? Dave Ramsey said that people looking to buy a home should do it right now. However, we know that buying a house is a personal decision. For most people, it's going to be the single largest purchase of their lifetime. So when deciding to buy a house, you should never look at where the market is. Instead, you should know two things. What kind of a house do you need for a comfortable life? What kind of a house are you comfortable buying? You see, those are two different questions. You might want to buy a 5-bedroom house, but if your finances aren't strong enough, renting might not be a bad idea. In the meantime, you should look to improve your financial situation so that you can afford the house you want. And for those concerned with houses that are overpriced, don't be. If you find a house you think would be perfect for you and your family, and you can afford it, you should buy it. Look at the price and what you're getting only when you want to resell the house. So, if you're looking to buy a house and then sell it for a profit, then you should wait a while. As we've already stated, the housing market is estimated to have a correction of between 20 to 30%, and it's best to keep making and saving money so you can cash in when the market recovers. You'll love these videos next.